Greetings, citizenry. This is your Coalition Deadboys coming right at you for a more constant episode. I'm Matt. Yes,
I'm Nathan.
And
how's it going, guys?
And we are here. We've got a wonderful thing that we want to discuss with everybody today because it is a lost thing. It is something we've not seen a whole lot of recently, and we really want to hear everyone's favorite stories about it. But first things first, the recognized news from the Megaverse. Sean has actually been on Facebook and social media platforms because in light of the D&D's new ONG, have you heard about this? Yeah. So, and maybe I'm wrong. Please chime in if I'm getting this wrong. But apparently, D&D realizes that they have a huge cash flow problem because they have not been regulating all of the people who have been creating content. Specifically, but not...
I heard something
specifically, but not limited to Critical Role. Because Critical Role, they were playing D&D and it was amazing, but now Critical Role has sold all of these products and they've come out with their own books and they've made a fortune by creating their own books and their own miniatures, and Wizards of the Coast didn't...
What?
And neither Wizards of the Coast, nor their Disney backers, nor anyone at D&D per se saw a dime of that. They didn't see any of that money. It all went to these individual creators. And so a lot of people are like, well, why should Wizards of the Coast make money off of us? So you've got everybody and their dog out there.
Because they're the ones who made it.
Well, but that's what's going on. So you've got everybody and their dog out there now creating their own content and selling their own content.
Right.
And Wizards of the Coast didn't do anything to regulate that.
Oops.
So now Wizards of the Coast is finally stepping out and saying, no, we're redoing D&D now, where we completely control all the content. And that's what the ONG is now. And nobody's happy with it.
No.
So that,
what
again,
do is like
if I'm wrong about any of this, please let me know.
I don't know, man. That's insane.
But it looks to me like that is what has happened. And not to throw shade on Critical Role, those guys put on a really great show.
Oh, yeah.
They do an amazing
I love
job.
Critical Role.
But again, they
did a great thing. They've done great things for me too.
So. But they've also created a huge ass problem. They've created a mess.
Well,
you can't deny
it can be cleaned up. It can be cleaned up.
It can be cleaned up.
You're gonna have to work on it.
And that's what Sean Robertson from Savage Worlds, he and Kevin have been on their social media and on the site saying that no, Palladium is the same as it's always been. We're all of our content can basically still be found on Drive-Thru-RPG.
Right.
But what he also said is apparently Palladium is trying to follow in Pathfinder's footsteps by making sure that all of their content is available.
Really? I didn't know that Pathfinder went down that trail.
Oh, Pathfinder. Well, if you saw your leading competitor down, would you not strike? Pathfinder has basically gone out of their way to say that
it's like this. If we were in a race and I know that you've fallen either in front of me or behind me, I just keep going.
That's what Pathfinder's done. Yes.
See, I would say, screw you. I'm going to win. Not come back and just start punching on you.
Well, and Sean Roberts is doing the same thing. Sean Roberts has basically just come out and said, "Nope, we're moving forward.
Just keep going.
We're just gonna keep going. We are not going to stop. We're not going to get involved. Basically,
right? Don't back it down and stop the race just because some dude fell over. I mean, if it's one thing like the Tour de France where your bike wrecks and takes out 3 bikes with it, just pray that you're not on the bike that got, binged.
It's just that from both Savage Worlds and Palladium, both are gaming companies.
That's true.
They've had to come out and say something, and that is what they have said.
Good for them.
That's D&D.
All right, moving on.
We are our own thing.
That's true.
Come play our game.
That's right.
And that is exactly what they're saying. In other news, you mentioned Lopan Raw. Do you have 2 of those?
I have one copy of Lopan Raw, and Aaron has a copy of Lopan Raw. So if you want...
I'm going to have to go buy my own then. Got it. We are a government.
Only 150 copies, guys.
I support the government.
150 copies of this book.
So I'm going to buy my own.
Get your copy now. Aftermath.
Yes.
Aftermath.
Well, that was the mistake for my Christmas package, which showed up. It was great. In my Christmas package, I asked for all the miniatures, and they sent me all the miniatures that they had. So I have another Glitter Boy.
There you go.
I've got the Dog Boy miniatures, and I've got the Skullbot miniatures, and I've got the Psy Stalker.
Well,
and they also sent me a hat. So I was very happy.
Are they doing? They're doing this. Aren't they going to do it? They're going to do a spring sale.
They keep trying. They've continuously said that they want to get something
they did
going.
A fall sale, and it turned out okay. It actually did actually pretty good. And they're doing some. They did a Kickstarter, and that is for a book that's, I think it's a Robotech book that they're doing.
Yes,
and that turned out really well because there was a lot of support for that.
And the Robotech game itself comes with a lot of really cool miniatures.
Well, and that means that they picked up the license with Harmony Gold, which they have let go and picked up and let go and picked up and let go, and it's a yo-yo. I don't know if they own a license or not, or not own, but borrowed the license at this point.
The world economy is kind of a yo-yo right now. There's a time when it looks like it's good, and then whoa, it's going way down. But then it rises back up for just a little bit, and then we're all the way back down.
I don't know what to say.
Any other news from the Megaverse though? Because they are still trying to get
the Christmas sale is over.
The Christmas sale is over. They're trying to get their minis thing going. And there's Lopan Raw with limited copies. Is there anything else from the Megaverse?
There's also there's Laszlo Raw that you can get your hands on.
Which that's
another one.
That one's behind me, but I can't. I don't think I can move enough for you to see it.
Lopan is behind you. Oh yeah.
No, that is Laszlo Raw. Yeah, that's.
And so is.
Yeah, there we go.
Laszlo.
Yeah.
So yeah.
The Laszlo has a book now. Very nice. About time.
Dude, I've been reading it and I'm like,
it's fantastic. They did the war with the Coalition versus Tolkien. I mean, how many years ago? And
yeah.
we finally get the Laszlo book now.
Well, you know what the thing of it is as I've been doing the podcast with Aaron.
Yeah.
We've noticed a progression that and we hadn't even seen the Minion War yet, and we're seeing how how this Tolkien War affected every book after World Book 20.
That's right.
Which was kind of weird because we're looking at World Book 20 and we're like, oh, they're not mentioning the liberation of the Free Quebec yet. I wonder. That's later. Yeah. So
yeah.
I love that the Lopan's coming out, that Laszlo's coming out. I would love to see more Raw books. Honestly, I would love to see more Raw books. I would love to see a Rifter or something of that nature that says, here's some books, here's some authors that have put out some stuff. Here's like 10 pages or 20 pages of their manuscript. Which one of these would you like to see finished?
Well, because some of the books... Well, and there are books. There are also not just role-playing gaming books, but storybooks that have been written in the World of Rifts.
That too. I would like to see that too.
And I have several of them. Some of them are pretty good. Some of them could be a little bit more nuanced. But yeah, no, that would be very nice because a lot of people have these really great gaming stories, but it's not so much a novel type thing. It's more of this really cool thing happened. So yeah, a collection of short stories. I think
we did the Chi-Town collection of short stories.
Yes, they did.
Why don't we see a Rifts World Book short stories, or maybe a Palladium Fantasy short stories, or maybe a Heroes Unlimited short stories.
The premise wouldn't be that difficult.
Or maybe
it's not like the premise would be that difficult to set up. I mean,
you could do a Dead Rain short story thing.
Erin Tarn finally has a friend willing to cast the Oracle spell for her, so she finally gets to take a look. Ooh, let's see what's on the World TV now. And
click. Yeah, exactly. I can see that.
Have Erin Tarn, channel surf on,
or you know what I want to see. I wanted to see a progression of Erin Tarn's retirement, and as a result of the retirement, a new, like a Tarn society or a Laszlo society that sends out rogue scholars to really learn more about the world, so that they can enhance what Aaron has already written about the world. I guess because Aaron wrote what she knew, but she also wrote the myths and legends too, because she didn't know the world.
Yes,
and that's what I love about it. And by sending out these rogue scholars, you could recreate that. You could create that. You could say, hey, so and so, member of the Tarn Society, is now in Italy, is in France, is in Czechoslovakia, in Russia.
Shh. Production staff. Anyway, so plenty of new books, plenty of new ideas.
Awesome.
Let us know your thoughts. Current games, just to review really quick. Anything new on the gaming front from you?
I'm back in a Palladium Fantasy game.
Okay.
And on Discord, and we're having a great time putting it back into order. And the Christmas season was, it slowed us down, but.
Is this what do they call? Is this Story Masters game? Is that okay?
Yeah, and she's doing a great job. It's World Book 1 of Palladium Fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
We're now deep in the dungeons.
Okay.
People have been transformed. We've been, chased. We've been gassed. We've been,
And it's a play by post.
Oh yeah, and she does such a great job. She's using PowerPoint to make some of her screenshots.
Okay.
And because she's using PowerPoint, she's able to move stuff around, make a new picture, send it out almost instantly. Really, really cool. And I'm having a great time with it.
Oh, cool.
Other than that, I think the only thing that we're doing is the taco truck, and we're having a great time doing that. We're now getting world recognition, and a lot of fans. We got new fans out of. Obviously we have Mexico and we have Canada, but when we have Germany and Greece and England and Australia. I'm like, holy smokes! People in these countries actually want to hear our stuff.
I've said it before. I do Discord games. I've got my Discord guy who lives in New Zealand. I've got my other Discord guy in Germany. I've got my other Discord guy in Japan. So there are
fans all over the country. This is awesome. So, and I love doing this show too, because this show really I would love to see it pick up.
We get comments from everywhere. We need
to be on YouTube.
Well, we really do. So, in the future, there will be a Patreon, and because there will be a Patreon, we will then be able, since we will have money coming in, hopefully, we can then...
A couple dollars. Just give us a couple dollars.
Well, these days, you only really need a couple of dollars to get on YouTube, so...
That's right. That's right.
There you go.
If you want to see the show on YouTube, support us.
That's definitely something we will do. In other gaming news, let me think. Okay, the gaming news for me, my Wednesday game, it is basically the Open Recruitment Center is going very well. All of the people in that game, now the 3 guys they were just D&D guys now, well, they would all love to come and play a Palladium game now.
Really?
Thank you.
Changed their path.
I love it. No, thank you, OGL1. I owe you so much.
That's awesome.
All the D&D guys.
That's awesome.
All the D&D guys are jumping ship.
That's awesome.
It's bubblegum ship time.
Woo!
All the ships that are still floating. Let's go out and just scoop them all up. Okay. My Wednesday D&D game is wrapping up. There's only a couple sessions left there. And since they're getting thirsty to play a Palladium game, Wednesday might become another Palladium game. I'm hoping, but again, I do a lot of different games, so it might become something different entirely. It is called The Sirens of Tel Rey. You can look it up. Next is on my Friday game, which is Ninjas and Super Spies, doing a Ninjas and Super Spies thing. Last night, we actually had a really cool duel between the Samurai Daisho wielder and a guy who just had 2 hook swords. The player was getting really frustrated just because cool as these duels are, they can be kind of rough to roleplay because nobody likes to see their attack parried. Nobody likes when they get flipped. Nobody.
It's okay. It's part of the game.
Nobody likes when they roll a nat 20 and they don't instantly kill the guy. I mean,
no.
I do that sometimes, but this guy was just too tough. He had too much SDC and hit points. So if you didn't kill him outright, I'm sorry, but that does happen.
The game that I'm in with you,
yeah,
a nat 20 got countered with a nat 20.
And that happens too sometimes.
And I liked...
And nobody likes to see that, though.
You're like, this is awesome. And then they nat 20, you're like,
this is awesome. Nat 20, nat 20 on the defender. That sucks. And last but not least, yes.
But it makes an epic story.
It does.
I love that. I love the epic story. It needs to be an epic story.
And the way that I always saw that as a kid... from the Final Fantasy game, Final Fantasy VIII is the way that I always saw that one. In the opening movie for Final Fantasy VIII, you got 2 guys with swords and they both smack each other in the face. And so you go the whole game with 2 characters who have this scar, like right here in the bridge of their nose. And so the way that I always see, if you rolled 2 nat 20s or if you rolled 2 1s, you know whichever side of the spectrum you're on.
I like that, though. I like
that means that both of you just smacked each other in the head and the fight's over. So, because that's how the game opens.
So, anyways,
and last but not least, the last
thing?
one we've got. It just barely started. I'm calling it Lightning Dogs. It's a coalition dog boy game. Only it's also got a lot of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle elements in it because of the Golden Rain. We have some fleeing coalition dog boys on board a Death Head, but that Death Head was carrying something other than dog boys and other coalition equipment. And they were also being pursued by an enemy that they knew very little about, some kind of strange alien. And all we know is that Death Head got caught up in a ley line, got sucked into a rift, and it wound up in Rifts, Japan.
I like it.
It crashed in Okinawa, and some of our animal people described the event as the Golden Rain, or in other words, the day where some shiny, powerful, radioactive stuff splashed on them, and suddenly they were no longer animals. Now they're people-ish. So,
I like it.
The first session went really great. And that is the thing. Now, getting to our topic today. The topic today we are going to discuss, this is going to be one of 2-part. So this is we got a 2-part episode because today we are going to discuss NPCs. And we're going to start with our favorite discussion. We're going to start with a favorite one because every game has NPCs. That's non-player characters. The characters controlled by the GM as your players interact with the world. We're going to discuss regular folk next time. Or other additives, again, because they're the NPCs that are helpful, but there are also
salesmen on the edge of the town.
Yeah, but see,
who knows everything? Ironically,
yes, because they're NPCs, but the other characters that they're technically NPCs because they're non-player characters, are villains.
I like villains. And a good story has a good villain.
Which is why we caption this with what is something that we haven't seen a lot of in.
What, a good villain?
She-Hulk didn't have one.
The Doctor Who, the lady Doctor Who, did she have a villain?
No, it was all
her.
It was just all her.
And that's not good. A good show or a good movie has a good villain. A villain that just pisses you off, rips your ship or your crew, or rips you a new one, and you're racing around trying to find a solution to get that guy. And see, they write it in such a way that you hope the villain loses.
Oh, yes.
But you hope the villain goes super far in their success before they lose.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
So, I want to start with let's start with the controversy then.
Okay.
Is a good villain a villain that you want to win, or is a good villain is a good villain the kind of guy that you want to see get pulled apart by horses and burned in effigy?
No, okay. Let me give you a good example of a good villain. Mm-hmm. Okay, Thanos.
Yes,
okay.
He was.
Thanos collects all of the stones.
He does.
Okay. He kills a couple of the guys in the process. Okay. And you're like, wow, where is this guy going? Is anyone gonna stop him? And at the end of the movie, he snaps his fingers.
Yeah,
it's done.
He won,
and then he gets to go home, or
he won.
He becomes a farmer or something crazy. And I love that movie because it created this climax, and the villain won.
And the villain won.
But the heroes are not dead.
No, the heroes were not dead.
So you're like, okay, heroes are still alive, but clearly the villain just ripped you a new one.
This is our specific note.
This
is our specific note for authors like George R. Martin. It's okay if you want to have your villain win, but please leave us some hope. Don't obliterate everything so hard that we just hate you.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, look. You look at Empire Strikes Back.
Oh yes.
Villain wins.
The villains did win.
Heroes are still alive.
The heroes escaped.
They got to come out with their
barely, yes,
barely, right?
So I said they escaped by the narrowest of margins, by one tiny little twist of a droid's mechanical arm did they escape. Yes.
I think in a good role playing game, especially in a campaign, okay?
Oh yes.
In a campaign, you get a good arc, okay? You get the climax. You get that villain is at their peak and they won.
Yes.
They've kicked the snot out of you, busted up your ship, ripped up your wagon, kicked your horse, broke your sword. I mean, look at Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings, at the end of the tower, you think nothing's gonna work now.
Oh yeah.
The hobbits have given up hope. They're in the swamps. They're in the mountains. They're shaking from the stupid ring. Meanwhile, the brotherhood, the fellowship is dissolved. Everyone's kind of on their own a little bit. You're like, it's over. Second act just kicked the snot out of these people. And in a good role-playing game, a villain, I mean, if you do it in a 3-act play, like Act 1, you introduce the villain, and you almost feel like you're on an equal playing ground, right? Villains have got a couple of guys, and you've got a couple of guys. In Act 2, you find out that the villains' guys are a little bit more powerful than your guys, and they kick your guys' butt. Yeah. And then in Act 3, somehow, by divine whatever, you slipped through that massive army or that massive wall or that massive whatever, and you face the villain and you take him down. End of story, end of credits, but everyone around the table is cheering because of the success. They liked that the villain won for that brief moment. They like that there was a moment of hopelessness because it meant that they couldn't just win with just brains or just brawn or just the magic sword.
So apparently, I guess my players must hate my. So I guess I'm too George R. R. Martin then. I've never had that. Apparently, my players hate my villains too much. I tend to see this. Traditionally, my villains come from the place of, I guess that comes with when introducing villains, because there are villains in your story that this person is obviously going to be the antagonistic force, or this, because every role-playing game has story and thematic elements, and so you say, okay, so this is the Force, this is the, I mean, in Rifts, anybody can be the bad guy. We've talked about this on multiple occasions. So what you say in your story is, okay, since we'll take the current story that we're telling, since most of my players are these lost coalition dog boys who don't know where they are and have no way home, and they have to find a new way to survive. There are all kinds of antagonists out there, but there are also the antagonists that I have specifically that I'm using from the book, and also the ones that I'm adding myself because they're part of the story that I would like to see told. Now, the ones from the book, again, we've got there's the Cyber Shogunate versus the traditionalists, and also versus the actual Republic of Japan.
Right.
You've got this constant war. You've got the war that Kevin specifically wanted to write about during the Shogunate era in Japan, where the ancient and the modern. Again, the ancient and the modern, they don't like each other, and they're at war for the soul of the country. Right. And Kevin has brought that about again. So again, in this, but that's just in the story that we're telling. There are these antagonistic forces, and then there are the NPCs that I'm actually introducing into the game. So when it comes to when you're actually NPCing a villain. And we go back to again. So I guess there really are those villains that are on both sides of it. But they're those villains that they're those villains. For example, there are those villains that are there to be defeated. We're talking about Lord of the Rings here, so we'll keep running with Lord of the Rings. So some of the villains from Lord of the Rings that we see, you've got Saruman, you've got Grimmer Wormtongue, you've got any number of orc generals that they have put there, and even though we may not have gotten a name out of them, they're still there, and they still act accordingly. So you've got the villains that are there for the story purposes, which in the case of Lord of the Rings, Sauron is a very overarch villain.
Right, and he's going to be the villain throughout the entire trilogy.
And Thanos falls in that category as well.
And Thanos did a fantastic job. When we got introduced to Thanos, it was in three films?
No. We were introduced to Thanos in the very end of that first Avengers movie. Is the very first place we ever see Thanos, and that's where they give us the overarch of the Infinity War. Now we see Thanos where we first actually get to know him per se. Is in Guardians of the Galaxy. It was in that Guardians of the Galaxy movie where Ronan the Betrayer goes before Thanos and says, you are taking this too lightly. I am after this object for you. You want it so badly, but I want to know why. And Thanos just tells him, well, that's just what Thanos says. Yeah,
need to know basis.
That's need to know basis. And we know that Thanos is great and mighty. He's a king. He's commanding
worlds.
He's commanding whole worlds, and well, he has two daughters, one of which apparently is his favorite, and the other one he apparently craps on a lot, and so we immediately have this. We get this paradigm where he's kind of
the paradox and the animosity.
Well, they show us we actually finally get to see a lot of the angles of this character, and we see him again in the third Thor movie where he finally just walks in and puts the gauntlet on and says, "All right, fine, I'll do it myself." Since apparently nobody else can do it for him. I know that. That wasn't actually in the third Thor movie. That was at the end of the second Guardians of the Galaxy movie, my bad. So, because he had to go and rob Asgard before, because he had to do that before Ragnarok, because in Ragnarok, Asgard got blown up. So,
that's right.
That's why.
But you know what? I like these elements, because remember, we're talking about villains that we love to hate. Mm-hmm. Like you love Darth Vader because in the very first scene that you see him, he's choking some dude, going, "Hey, I need those plans. Where are they? I don't know." And he dies, right? And you're like, "Whoa, this guy is really badass." Yeah. Forgive my English, but this guy's going to really cause trouble. And you wanted that guy in future films. Like, so when they say, "Oh, we're going to do a
when it comes to that one,
you know,
you understood why everyone was running away from him.
Absolutely, because he just,
you understood why nobody was standing up to this guy.
He can choke you across the room with a thought. So you don't piss him off.
And there's kind of a there's a reciprocal here between if you're talking about Darth Vader versus Darth Vader, not versus, we're talking about Darth Vader and Thanos. See, everyone feared.
But we loved Thanos.
Yes, we did.
We loved Darth Vader.
We love both of them.
We love
Sauron, which is why it's a different side of the coin. Now, when it comes to
Sauron.
We did like Saruman because he was played by Christopher Lee, and Christopher Lee did an amazing job. When it comes to actual Sauron, though,
we like
Sauron
him too.
Sauron was very easy. He was very easy to vilify, mostly just because he was
not a lot of lines.
Well, it wasn't. It was.
He was almost an emperor. In the sense because he didn't have a lot of lines, a lot of play.
Sauron was an element. And so the reason why there isn't a whole lot of backlash against Sauron for Lord of the Rings is what he represented. It wasn't so much that Sauron wasn't a person per se. Sauron just represented all that was dark and bad and cruel in the world.
And Saruman was Darth Vader.
That was what he represented, and all of his little henchmen guys each represent different aspects of bad different things and that are wrong and things that are wrong with the world. So, a very unique thing about a villain like that, a villain that is elemental in nature, because these are the types of villains we have. We have on the one hand we have Darth Vader. We have a very very soldier, but also at the same time he's kind of magical. He's kind of like a dark paladin. Yeah, I've got a sword. I've got magic. I choke people from far away, and people are scared of me. No one really stands up to him because they've heard all the stories about him. They fear him.
So.
Versus on the other hand, Thanos shows up, and everybody stands up to him. Everyone is just like, who are you? Yeah, cop you. I can take you on, and you watch everyone fail. They fail, and they fail, and they fail, and they fail. You just kind of watch everyone fail one after another, and nobody can take this guy out
over and over again, right?
So I just really like the parallel there, where Vader, everyone ran from him because everyone knew they couldn't take him, versus Thanos, who apparently nobody knew anything about, so they thought they could take him, and they all fail redonkulously. Yes, so
yeah, I like that. I mean, another good example is Star Trek Khan, where he doesn't have powers, but he has the advantage. They don't attack him openly. He just has the advantage.
Okay. Now, for Wrath of Khan, the kind of villain that Khan was what at least what I've always seen is a very proactive villain.
Okay.
Which proactive villainy is really great in a role-playing game for your players, because your players are now playing defense. Your players don't really have to think of anything to do because the bad guy is coming after them.
True.
So when you've got a bad guy who's coming after you for whatever reason...
Now, don't scare your players to scatter in multiple directions, because your game's going to go nuts. When they're coming for you, you want to draw the characters towards the enemy, because when you bring the enemy at them, they start going in multiple directions. Sometimes.
Well, sometimes.
But unless you're doing something like Khan, where my ship is against your ship, my people in this pocket are against your people in that pocket. So you can't, you're not going anywhere because you're in your pocket, and I'm over here, and my team is over here and over here. It's like, if you're gonna do anything, you're gonna have to bring the whole team to that spot. That way, if you're gonna come at them, you're coming at them collectively.
And the other thing to bring up when it comes to Wrath of Khan is that Khan was a previously established villain that they brought back, and
I like that too.
A lot of people for great storytelling, and for great gaming moments. If you have that, because we've all kind of had those guys, those little villains. that survive, and it actually will make for a great role-playing session when you bring those people back. So when it comes to making, so for great villains in gameplay. So now we're going to shift. We've talked about a lot of our favorite villains and why we love them. That's great, and we want to hear about your favorite villains too.
Oh yes,
let us know.
Please
and
tell us about your villains.
please include why you like them and what they did right. Now,
I want to know.
So when we create or when you have villains, what makes a good villain in a role-playing game? How do we create good villains? Again, how do we get that moment that you're talking about? Because I don't see that moment very
Sometimes
often. My players
accidental.
get mad at me. See, my players get mad at me when the bad guys survive.
No.
See, I take heat when my guys are able to scurry away.
I had one bad guy, and it was accidental, right?
Yeah.
Like, I had my main bad guy, and he was on a helicopter, and he was like, bye-bye, he was flying away. Okay, and I thought they were going to, because they had a missile launcher, and they were just going to shoot the guy. Yeah, I set it up. But because it wasn't personal, they didn't go for that guy.
Right.
They went after a guy who was a hench who had no name. I had to give him a name.
Yeah.
Flesh him out, give him stats. I had to do everything on a whim because this guy, he's like, I smell mutants. Let's get them. And the next thing you know, he's an oingo, boingo, shoot over there. And the next thing you know, these guys who are hiding.
You had a blind Joe, huh?
Dude, I did. And he was like, no, he was a bloodhound, right?
Something don't smell right.
Mutants over here. Go. And they're like, what's that guy's name? Because they got wounded, they got hurt, and they had to run from this guy, and this guy had him on the run for a little bit, but they wanted him so bad.
Oh yeah,
I was like, what did I do? What did I create? And that villain, I could have him come back, and they'd be like, oh, it's on! You're back. You're gonna die.
So that is a nice thing. For as much as the players may not like it initially, when that guy does show up again, your players get into the game right away because
immediately
we're getting that guy.
That guy's back. He's still alive. I blew up his car. Did you see the body?
Save a village, protect a princess, get some money. No, none of that matters. Kill that guy. Get Shorty. That's what it's all about.
That's it. Get Jeeves.
So first of all, so in the gaming element, when that guy does get away, he immediately becomes a great villain to your players because
he was. I don't know what I did.
Okay. That's all you had to do. He survived.
All he has to do, and because it's personal, he survived. Now you have to get him.
There you go. Yeah, you have to get him.
I think that's what made Boba Fett a great villain. That's what makes Khan a great villain. That makes
Okay.
All of these guys great villains is because they survive when you think you got them. You're like, oh, they're a one-time villain. Nope. Dag nabbit, they're back at six.
Okay, so we're definitely putting that one on the board right there. So number 2 thing, part of creating a good villain. Okay, when he gets away, don't feel bad about bringing him back because your players will really like it. So again, bad guys that come back makes for great villainy. So number 2, when it comes to these great NPC villains that we make, when it comes to the great ones, I need you to say what you said again. I totally lost my train. Yeah, I totally lost my train of thought. That doesn't happen very often. No, it's fine. No, it's fine. It's so when you that's what it was. So when you've got a guy that survives, now you have a villain to write up. You have a villain that you can now give a name to,
and
you can give him things. Yes, and you can actually now flesh him out a little bit more.
And when he shows up with a new guy, you know that the new guy could be just as bad as the old guy.
And so I guess that's the thing. So I guess that is where it suddenly that is the sudden step between this person was an NPC, but now they are a villain. So the step there.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I see where you're going. Yeah, where it goes from NPC to an annoyance.
Well, this was the third step. I'm still hoping that we can, flesh out writing and creating and bringing, great villains into your game. Because that is step 3. Is there are lots of NPCs in your game. What in a superhero game, the very first superhero game that I did with my Discord friends. The very first game that I did, there was a lawyer there on the street. He was there to help them, but they got embroiled in this. They got embroiled in this fight against.
What? Oh my gosh! This sounds like an awesome story.
What were they even doing?
Right.
Oh, that's what they were trying to do. No, they weren't fighting anyone. They were trying to sneak into a building.
All right.
It was one of the characters' name was Edmund Locke, and his power was he was a billionaire. And so these other players, they couldn't get a meeting with him because he was too rich and powerful and important. So they decided, oh, well, screw that, we're going to sneak in. And in the process of sneaking into this building, they ended up
what?
They ended up blowing up this innocent lawyer who's just standing there on the street minding his own business. He wasn't hurting anybody, but they totally mangled him.
Yeah.
And the guy came back because
you jokered your Batman.
They jokered him.
They big time jokered him.
He got something dumped on him. Something happened to him.
You bumped him into the vat of goo, and he came out.
But after they dumped acid all over him, the way that I just created this guy was okay. So they burned off all this guy's skin, but what happened to him? And so it was alter physical structure acid. And it was also, I think the other one was like ultra physical structure magma. Yeah, he got like 2 of them. I rolled.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, no, I rolled this guy. He was.
Oh my gosh,
it's
an awesome thing.
Yeah, he was stupid powerful. I called him Bile. Bile, yeah. And
yeah,
so,
of course.
But that was just the way that I had it because since he was made of magma and acid, but he had no skin, so he's kind of just glopping around, and it looks like his blood is just squirting everywhere, burning everything. Yeah, I know.
How's it taste, Ralph?
My villains get very graphic and very gross sometimes.
No, that's a good thing though.
But so he was a nobody, but the step that happened again is the action reaction is we definitely.
How did the players react to a new villain that they created?
Okay, well in order to keep the intrigue up and to make sure that everybody was in on it, I had to have him place blame on somebody else. So I had him blame person. Okay, even though persons A, B, and C created him,
right?
I had him blame person D, who had nothing at all to do with it.
Again, because he's a member of the party, right?
Yes, as also a member of the party. But that's also because, and he blamed player D because he thought that player D worked for player E, who was the billionaire, who also had nothing to do with this. But again, in order to make this all inclusive, I had him go after the 2 people that had nothing to do with it. So when the players that had nothing to do with it were wondering, like, who the hell is this guy? And finally, now, player A, whose problem this actually was, never said anything. It wasn't until player B came out and finally took responsibility for, there's a lawyer on the street, and we accidentally dumped a bunch of crud all over him when we were first trying to sneak in here. Sorry. And it was actually a really great session because suddenly the players all blew up at each other. Because suddenly the players were all like, "What?" And
you mean D is like barking at A, going, "You did this to me! You did this to me!"
Well, because then player B actually said, "Hey, it was actually player A's fault," and A denied everything, and B,
of course he did.
B tried to affirm everything, and C didn't want to be involved in anything, even though C's the one that that was the other thing. C hates him the most. That's what happened. C hated that guy the most. Don't ask me why. I think it's just because
hates an NPC. Dude, I love how it escalated, and you took something that should have been relatively harmless and easy to manage and easy to handle, and because the players are the X factor in the whole thing, they created their own villain.
Oh yes.
And you know what? Here's the other thing. When players create their own villain by accident,
yes.
Oh, it's now really personal. And
so
when the villain comes after them, they know why. And when they come after the villain, they know why. And there's that love-hate relationship. You almost want the villain to come back all the time. Because
so this is the third one. Okay. So we got the first ones, which are the villains that the books provide us, and the villains provided to us by background. Yes. They're the second villains, which are again these
our Batman Joker,
which again are these NPCs at first, but then they
You screwed them up.
No, sorry. The second one are the villains that we add ourselves because we know that there are bad guys who are after them for XYZ reasons. But the third one, this is our third villain. This is the NPC who makes the jump to villain because of the players creating their own demons.
I love that, though. I love that in any setting. Heroes, fantasy, sci-fi. Doesn't matter what the scenario is. When you see them accidentally make their own villain, or even intentionally, like, you're going to give me the information, and next thing you know, splash of acid on the guy's face, he's Two-Faced now. Good for you, genius. You just ruined his life.
And the last little bit that I wanted to cover with this, because we've talked about our favorite villains, we've talked about the best way to write them in and bring them into the game. The last thing I want to talk about, actual when we portray these villains, because as the game master, it is now your job. You're the one who now has to give these villains a personality, a method, a theme. It is now on you, and what are some of the great ways to do this? I myself don't have a huge issue doing this because I am pretty good at doing voices. I've also got a lot of favorite villains just rolling around in my head. Mm-hmm. I draw from movies. I draw from TV shows.
Too.
I draw from a multiplicity of different places, and I love doing voices. I always give my villains voices and different things, and that's just how I do it. Some other ways, though, when we have to portray these villains, though, and when they have to do these acts, the one, I guess, that comes up for me specifically, again, it kind of happened last night, because you have your player, and they're struggling, they think they're not doing very good, and they may be getting a little depressed, they're probably a little emotional. Happens to guys, doesn't just happen to girls, it happens to guys, too. It happens to all walks of life. I've seen everybody just totally be out of the game because they feel like they can't roll right to save their lives. And again, going back last night to the evil North Korean kung fu grandma who nobody could just roll against.
No one could beat grandma.
Everybody was getting literally spanked by this old Chinese lady, which tells you the attacks that I had to use because I was literally just. And it was all dice rolls. I wasn't doing it intentionally, but I was literally just whooping the snot out of my players, and I felt kind of bad. And ultimately, I just decided someone finally got in a good hit. And so I made the decision right then and there. Okay, the villain needs to be defeated right now, because if I don't, all my players are probably just going to go hang themselves. No. So
you let the villain say, you know what, you guys weren't worth my time, and then they, jump in their helicopter and fly away, or jump in the car and drive away.
So I guess I like that you brought.
Because they know that grandma is going to come back.
So some things I like that you brought up when you get these moments where, as far as portraying the villain, and the villain is doing bad things to the players, and the players aren't making their saving throws.
Right.
When you decide to do that bad thing, and that bad thing works, and it works way too well. And you decide to kind of be like, okay.
You want to bring it back. Bring it back because you want the... And remember, the game is about... A great villain...
Okay, so
a good story.
You've brought up a villain that he's the guy that we haven't touched on. So you pull a dark side. Another fantabulous villain. Because Darkseid is the one who... he blasts Superman into the ground. And that's all he says. He's like, I'm not going to finish you now. Destroying you is too important.
Thanks.
I'm just here to grab my.
I'm just here to
grab my kid.
That dude, I can kick your snot.
That's it. That's all.
And wear the glove of power and
there you go.
And leave.
So if you're beating up on your characters too badly, always remember. Okay, so part of portrayal, you can pull a dark side. Have the villain just be like, "That is who I am. I am more powerful than you,
exactly.
And I'm leaving now.
I can kick your butt.
I can destroy you at any time.
Don't come.
Now
to me.
is not.
Pimp
but
slap
now
you so hard. But you'll see tomorrow.
But now is not that time. And then they
and
then
today,
leave. Yeah.
And you know what I love? I love that you also give the narrative. I am more powerful than you. You are pathetic.
Exactly.
You waste my time. Yeah. Meanwhile, your hero is on the ground in hit point damage, going, sucking chest wound. He's like, I leave now. To leave you in your pittance, and then Boom Tomb opens up. They walk through and they're gone. You're like, what just happened?
Okay.
Call the medic.
And that, but then again, there are those times where you've got where you really do have the underdog or the narrow margin victories. And so when it comes to portraying villains, so what's the best way when you've got a really great fight going, you've got a really great vibe, but then all of a sudden, and it's usually something ridiculous, because when the tone that you've set is pretty dire. Mm-hmm. And I know this probably happens in everyone's games. I know I'm not unique in this. How do you liven it back up? Well, no, it's not about livening it back up. It's about when someone for example, take the most recent thing that we did from the Triangle. You weren't there at the very end, but what ultimately happened was they walked in, and first thing that happened was the cyborg finally just rock and rolled at everything. He full clip spray burst with all of his weapons and basically bathed the room in plasma, and nothing in there was immune to plasma. So he pretty much just it all. He basically just burned everything in the room. Wow. And again, none of my guys got out of it. All of our force fields were down. A lot of my guys were damaged at that point. A lot of this, a lot of that. And I'm like, okay. So this fight, so we have a fight here. But then the next thing that happens is one of my little players just steps in and decides to mind shatter the BBEG. And what a time for me to roll a 1 to save. So the point that I'm making is what happens when your good guy decides to rubber chicken a serious fight. Because you've had this whole overtone of this is a do or die situation. I want to keep this serious. I want it to be dramatic. You kind of don't want the people to be laughing all the way to the bank at the end of this, even though that's exactly what happened.
You want them to walk away on crutches, going, "We win," but I almost went to a hospital for it, or I did go to a hospital for it.
So I guess that's just the thing. So now ultimately all the power is within the GM to do this.
It is.
Me, for example, I don't really use my.
Do you say, okay, that's the end of the 3rd chapter, and now we're going to do chapter 4, and we're going to do now 5 chapters?
There we go. Okay,
and say, hey, you know what? You beat my guy in the 3rd chapter. But you beat him too quickly, so he's going to quickly escape and come back in the 5th chapter.
Okay,
you know what I mean, or come back in the 4th chapter.
So if you're villain,
they can laugh. Let them laugh.
Yeah, let them laugh.
But
okay, cool.
The villain got away.
But the villain still gets away. Or next thing's next. You can all of the villains in Elden Ring have this. All the villains in Dragon Ball Z had this, as well as the villains in Dark Souls. You can always have the boss, second phase.
Phase 2? What?
Yeah, phase 2. You beat him down in his human form.
Okay.
Have him explode and become a monster of some kind. So,
Wow.
So
that's an awesome idea.
So when your bad guys get rubber chickened, new phase. Second form. Second form. Have your boss, second form. There we go. That's enlightening to me.
I like that a lot. I like that.
You remember
you ghosted him, but guess what? That ghost is now a possessive entity and new body.
There you go.
There he is. The villain is back.
Cool. Well, that's all the time we've got for today.
It was awesome, guys.
We want to talk about villains and how to portray villains accurately.
Yes.
And we will be going on to YouTube. I'm going to look into that today. We're going to try and we're definitely going to try and do that so that we can become a lot more innocuous and share our wisdom with everyone.
Absolutely.
And also share your stories with everyone. Please let us know.
We want to see your comments.
It's coalitiondeadboys@blogspot.com. You can also reach me at XEROTOREX@gmail. Send me your stories. I'll post them online. I'll talk about them. We can also I'll also pass them on to the taco truck.
Yep, Coalition Deathhead Taco Truck. We're on Spotify, and we're on Google Podcasts, and
Google Podcasts is another one I can do. I can do that one. I have that one. I have that, and I never use it. So
because I'm on Anchor FM, it immediately broadcasts it to those 2 other outlets.
Oh, really?
Yes, automatically.
Just from Google.
You can do.
So what is it? It's Google what? It's Google.
No, it's not. Well, yeah, Google Podcasts.
but it's from
you use Anchor FM.
Anchor FM. Okay.
Anchor FM is my big sponsor. Or, well, not my sponsor, but my big.
It's your go-to app.
My go-to app.
Your go-to site.
Because I can use it for video casting and for voice casting. For podcasting.
All right, cool. Definitely gonna look into that then. All right, so we will be coming at you more often, I promise. This was part 1 where we talked about NPCs becoming villains and some of our favorite villains.
Oh yeah,
and we'll be coming back at you next time where we talk about NPCs and not letting the NPCs steal the show.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, people. I'm Matt.
I'm Nathan.
Carry on, citizens. Carry on.
Take care.